Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Carolina Conversation. I'm your host, Shammond Williams, and today I'm doing Q&A with my producer, JK, about the UNC Tar Heels against the UCLA Bruins. JK, how have you been, man? How are things going?
It's going well, man. Got like a month of school left, and thankfully, the Heels have been able to make this run that nobody expected them to make. So the campus has been live, man. It's been lit. We ready to cheer them on tomorrow.
No question about it. No question about it. I think I think the Heels have done a great job, and we also want to commend the ladies, the Lady Tar Heels as well, because they're in the Sweet 16 as well. So it must be a great vibe right there on campus around this time to have both programs in the Sweet 16 fighting for an opportunity to get to the Elite Eight. And so, with that being said, I mean, the Hills have really been on a pretty good run. I mean, they started out the NCAA tournament with a big win, and then the game against Baylor. My goodness, there was a lot of ebbs and flows in that game in itself, right?
Yeah. So also I'm with you. We got to commend the women as well, because Deja Kelly, one of my good classmates, one of my co-hosts on our sports show. So we send in the ladies all the love. And, I think the biggest difference is, the ladies, they were good. They were good all year, ranked in the top 25. And then I look at the men's team, and they are doing the typical thing that we've seen, 8, 9, 10 seeds do before, which is they've always had the talent. I mean, you and I have talked about that all year. They've had the roster to do this, and they're finally clicking at the right time. And the first thing that I noticed that I kind of want to talk about a little bit, and it's just they had a good offense, but now it's like taking that next level. I mean, they've hit 24 threes in 2 games. RJ has been running the offense like perfectly. And the thing I notice is it's this simple. They're now getting the shots that they want to take instead of the shots that the defense is forcing them to take. And that's been the biggest difference that I've seen personally.
Yeah, I think the confidence. I think the confidence in really understanding where you're going to get your shots, the type of basketball you want to play, and being comfortable in it. There are different, times within the game. There's different people being able to have an impact in the game, which allows teams not to be able to just focus on Armando or focus just on RJ or focus just on Brady or focus just on Caleb. And those guys have really been doing really well together in games. And it's allowed them to be a really potent offense. They've scored the ball at a high clip. They put a lot of pressure on people's defenses, and it's really been good to see. Now, I was really concerned in the second half of that Baylor game, especially the last 10 minutes. I thought that the guys begin to take their foot off the pedal a little bit. I know at that point in time when you're up like that, you're playing against the time, but you also are playing against the team as well. And I thought Baylor did a good job of applying pressure, because I think they felt like North Carolina would try to stall or take time off the clock. And I think there were a few times I felt personally if we would have made them pay for pressing by maybe getting a layup or making them fouls, I think that it would have kept the game from getting so tight. But that's a call within the game, and different people do different things. And but I do know from my experience, when teams understand that you're not attacking, then they apply the pressure more. And like they'll leave the basket, they'll come and trap in conspicuous places, just uncommon places to trap, because they know that you're not going to look to score. And I think that hurt us a little bit. It kept us from, staying in the rhythm. And, it just made the game a little bit more difficult than I would have liked.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned those things because, obviously everyone was in an uproar about the officiating, which, don't get me wrong, like there was certainly some bad calls, but what I was trying to tell people is I'm like, look, there was bad calls, but the officials do not blow a 25-point lead. They got, like you said, they got comfortable. They stopped applying pressure. I mean, like, for example, you look with 2 minutes left in the game when they broke the press and Puff got that easy layup. Like, there was so many more opportunities for them to do that, and they would pull the ball back out, burn the whole shot clock, take a bad shot, and then they allowed Flagler to get hot for Baylor. And I understand, like, it was definitely stressful to watch, but on a positive note, I kind of feel like that was a good experience for them because that's like the backbone game. That's the one where it's like they easily could have lost it after they blew the lead and it went to overtime. And RJ and Armando kind of like took over in overtime and allowed us to come out on top. I honestly think that game is going to help them a lot going forward because they needed to be tested. I mean, every champion's got to be tested at some point. And I guess my biggest question to you though is like, what do you think they'll do differently? Because you got to think, UCLA is going to watch that game and they're going to be like, all right, like high pressure is the key to beating this team.
Well, I hope that once or if UCLA chooses to try to play pressure basketball, Carolina will make them pay. Because like I said before, there is a fine line in being able to take time off the clock, but also punish the pressure. It's kind of like the analogy I use about stupidity. If you don't punish stupidity, people will continue doing those types of things because nobody's making them pay for it. And so I think you just have to analyze what's going on with the game at those points in times. But I don't know if that would be a good thing for UCLA. I know what they have as a basketball team. I think they match up with Carolina, pretty well. But at that point in time too, we did not have Brady Manick in the game. Caleb Love fouled out. So a lot of things wasn't going in the Tar Heels. Going for the Tar Heels at that point in time. What I did like, and most people probably didn't pay attention to it, I did like when McCoy got in the game, Justin McCoy. He got in the game, and that one possession, they were pressing. He got the basketball. He drove it the full length of the court, and he took it to the basket. And he actually got a charge. But for me, I was like, that's the answer. That's the answer. Take the ball down their throat, get them to commit, maybe 2-foot stop, pass it to the next guy, lay it in. Because eventually what happens is, they're going to miss a shot, and then you come back and get a layup. They're going to miss another shot, you get another layup. And so it's going to break the will of the defense. Another thing that I really thought that was great for the Heels, you've heard people say in the past when the games got tough or difficult, the Heels would lay down and things like that. I really thought that they were resilient in the overtime, and they really just dominated the overtime. And that was really good to see. And still, they did not have Brady Manick. They did not have Caleb Love. And so to see them do those things, to see those guys come off the bench and be, impactful in their own ways was really, really good. And it shows growth. The one thing that I've always tried to be cognizant of, being an assistant coach or, even when I had my own like little AAU team, was developing the players. And due to the circumstances that the Heels faced against Baylor, I think that it developed some players, styles really, really, really played well. I wanted him to be more aggressive against that press because I think one time he had a chance to break it. He tried to make a pass across the court, east to west. West to east, and they stole it. And I was like, hey, man, if you turn your shoulders to the basket, attack the basket, draw the defender, kick it to Armando, he's going to dunk it. Just those types of things and being able to evaluate what's going on is going to make him a better player. So, if it's a case that you do need him in crunch time minutes, this next game against UCLA, he and McCoy and Puff, those guys were able to be impactful in the game in a very tough game against the reigning champions. Today's episode of the Carolina Conversation is sponsored by Honey, the easiest way to save money when shopping on your phone or your computer. Have you ever been in this spot? You're shopping for something online, you get to check out, and when it asks for a promotional code, you start Googling, trying to find a way to save some money. Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching for codes is a thing of the past because Honey is a free tool that scours the internet for you and finds one that best fits your cart. Here's how it works. You're shopping, right? You check out, the Honey button pops up, you click apply coupons. You wait a few seconds, you watch the price you pay go down. It's as simple as that. So if you don't already have Honey, you can be straight up missing out on awesome savings. By getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. I'd never recommend something that I don't use myself. Get Honey for free and join honey.com/March Madness. That's joinhoney.com/March Madness.
Yeah, and I think that was a big point for me too, is you talked about the growth and like them being in that situation. I think that was honestly huge because, everyone talks about Hubert playing the whole like Iron 5 thing and how he plays his starters so many minutes, doesn't really play a lot of guys off the bench. Well, that game he had no choice with Brady and Caleb out. And I feel like that's going to be so huge for them because like Dontrez was able to give good minutes. Puff was able to give good minutes. McCoy was able to give good minutes. And now it's like when those guys get put in this game, they just played probably one of the highest pressure games of their career. So it's like now when they get put in, it's just going to be routine for them. And, those guys are always ready. But I just think it was really good for them to get in that high pressure NCAA tournament situation. And the one thing I will say that has really impressed me is how they've turned around the defense. Like, yeah, they gave up points to Baylor and everything, but the percentages, they're holding people to like below 25% from three. They're holding people to like 35, 36% from the field. What have you seen that they're doing better on defense than they were earlier in the year when that was kind of like a big question mark for them?
Well, I think that they're doing the same things, but I think what's helped their defense a lot is because they've put so much pressure on people offensively. Sometimes when you put so much pressure on people offensively, that becomes your defense. It's like when you're attacked, I always say, how do you stop a shooter? A lot of people don't know how you stop a shooter. Well, people that really shoot the basketball and are not really great athletes or aren't fit, you make them defend. You make them use their legs. When you have to stop somebody on the interior or on the perimeter, you're attacking them. They're expending more energy. And so with the Heels being aggressive offensively and attacking you and dominating you on the interior, putting a lot of pressure on your defense, that within itself makes people more fatigued. And so that leads on the offensive end for them. Here it is. You have to stop somebody that's coming at you. Then it takes away from your ability to play offense because you're a little bit more fatigued than you would be if a person wasn't capable of scoring or they wasn't attacking. Because we all know once the Heels begin to attack and they show that they can score, then they start coming at you in waves. And so that makes the defense have to play a little bit more harder than they would be if you weren't hitting shots, or if you weren't hitting layups, or if you weren't fast breaking. And so I think all those things together work in favor for the Heels, and it helps their defense against other players, as well as when you're scoring a lot, it makes you, it allows you to want to play a little bit more defense, because what they want to do, they want to get in passing lanes, they want to rebound, they want to get out and run. So it kind of exudes confidence defensively, which I think the Heels do a great job of using to their advantage.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the biggest thing I've noticed is like, RJ's averaging like 9 assists a game through the first 2 games. And it's just been like the shot selection has just been so much better. Like, Brady's been on fire in the tournament. That's because he's getting good shots. I mean, Caleb's played well in the tournament. He's getting good shots. And then, like you said, they're wearing defenses out. And then what's happening is Armando all of a sudden paints wide open for him. Then he starts punishing people. Then they become really hard to beat. So kind of speaking to that Sweet 16 matchup tomorrow against UCLA, I agree with what you said earlier, which is I think they match up well with UCLA. I mean, Leaky is an elite one-on-one defender. I don't know if they'll put him on Juzang or if they'll put him on Jules Bernard, but I'm confident that he can make the game very difficult for whoever he guards. Armando is always a matchup problem. And, RJ, Caleb, Brady, they've all been fantastic scoring. So what do you think is the biggest key for us to see UNC, dancing on to the Elite Eight after tomorrow?
It's going to be, for me, it's going to be the tale of two tapes. Who is going to be able to impose their will on the other team, because there are so many like-sized pieces on both teams. It's going to be who can impose their will on the other. I think Armando's going to be big on the interior. I do think that. We don't know if how healthy Jaime Jaquez is going to be. Like you said, with Jules Bernard and Johnny Juzang and Tiger, those are more than capable guards as well. So I think what helps UCLA is just what I said about North Carolina. When they get rolling, then that helps their defense, because they're applying so much pressure, at you from different people at different times. And so it's a storied blue blood game. North Carolina against UCLA, 2-story programs. Two great, two institutions that had 2 great leaders in Wooden and Coach Smith. And so it's going to be an interesting game. But I hope the Heels are able to do the things needed and necessary throughout that game to put themselves in a position to win. And I do think it's going to come down to Armando. I think he's just that difficult to guard. As well as I don't know how healthy Jaime Jaquez is going to be, but he's a tough guard himself, because he can post, he can play from the perimeter, he's physical, he can create for others. It's the game that I think the NCAA wanted, and we're going to get that game tomorrow night.
Yeah, and regardless of what happens, like, I'm glad you made the point, because it's kind of funny. These teams really mirror each other so much. Like Tiger and RJ, both smaller, scrappy, good guards. Juzang and Love, pure scorers, really good at scoring the basketball. Then you got Manic and Jaquez, like both bigger, but they can shoot and they're so skilled. And I completely agree, because like Armando, yes, him and Cody Riley weigh the exact same, but he's got 3-4 inches on Cody Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just going to be a matchup nightmare for them. So, I mean, I'm thinking this is going to be one of those Baycott, 24-point double doubles, and he's just going to really impose his will. And so the last thing, as hard as it is to do, I feel like we gotta spice it up and make a little prediction of what we think is going to happen tomorrow. So I will say that I genuinely just think the Heels are hot. I think after that game against Baylor, Manick's going to come out fired up. Love's going to come out fired up. I think Armando is going to be a problem. So I personally think that the Heels are going to move on. So what do you think? What's going to happen tomorrow?
Well, I'm most definitely I'm hoping that the Heels are going to move on for sure. I'm just looking forward to the Heels just executing and doing the things that they're capable of doing. That's going to be it for me. I don't want to put any pressure on the guys. I'm not going to look into my crystal ball and things like that. But I do plan on watching the Heels on Sunday as well, if that says anything.
I agree completely. And, that's really all I have for you. But I will say this is my thing. This is why you can never, ever, ever, I don't care what you say about, oh, the ACC was weak this year. Well, they got 3 teams in the Sweet 16, saying all this stuff about UNC's. Yeah, they had their games. They look bad. I get it. But there's one thing you cannot do, and that is you cannot count out a blue blood. And that is just, they're proving it. They're hot.
No question. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you following us here in the Carolina Conversation with the Q&A with JK and I. And we hope all of you are preparing yourselves to support the Lady Heels tomorrow night, as well as the Heels tomorrow night. All right. So thank you for watching and being with us on the Carolina Conversation. And go Heels.